She did not cry, she did not scream, she did not beg. The moment the judge stripped custody of her son, she walked out of that courtroom, packed one bag, and vanished into the mountains. Everyone assumed she was falling apart. But 47 days later, she walked back into that same courtroom and did something that left her ex-husband and his entire legal team speechless. Here is what nobody expected. If you believe that a mother who has been knocked down still has the power to rise, subscribe to this channel and drop a comment telling us where you are watching from. You do not want to miss what happens next. There is a kind of silence that does not comfort you. It confronts you. It strips away every excuse, every distraction, every lie you have told yourself, and it forces you to sit with the one thing you have been running from. The truth. Scarlett Dawson found that silence 6 hours deep into the Appalachian Mountains, on a gravel road that had not been maintained in years, leading to a cabin she had not visited since she was 17 years old. 3 days earlier, a family court judge had spoken words that carved a hole straight through her chest. Temporary guardianship awarded to the father. Temporary. As if that word softened the blow. As if calling a wound temporary makes it bleed any less. She remembered every detail. The courtroom smelled like furniture polish and old paper. Her ex-husband sat with perfect posture in a tailored suit. His attorney used words like instability and unpredictable behavior, and all Scarlett could think about was the way her 6-year-old son Lucas had looked back at her as they led him away. Not angry, not sad, confused. Like he could not understand why the person who always fixed everything was just standing there, doing nothing. "Am I in trouble?" he had whispered in the hallway. She had knelt down, swallowed every scream inside her, and said, "No, baby, not at all." But she had been the one on trial, not for crime, for survival. After the divorce, Scarlett had taken every job she could find. Waitressing, freelance editing, overnight shifts at a nursing home, anything to keep the lights on. But in a courtroom, effort does not always translate to stability. Sometimes working 3 jobs does not prove you are dedicated. It proves, at least to a judge, that your life is in chaos. So Scarlett did the only thing she had left. She disappeared. But what she did not know yet, what nobody knew, was that the cabin she was running to held a secret her dead father had buried beneath the floorboards years ago. And that secret was about to flip this entire custody battle on its head. The cabin sat in a clearing surrounded by pine trees so tall they blocked the last of the afternoon sun. It looked smaller than she remembered. The porch railing was rough and splitting. The windows were clouded with years of mountain dust. It smelled like cedar, cold stone, and something older. Something like regret. Her father had left this place to her when he died 5 years ago. They had not been close. He was the kind of man who replaced words with work. He never said he was proud of her. He fixed her car instead. He never told her he loved her. He built a fireplace that would outlast 50 winters instead. When she had told him about the divorce, he did not offer comfort. He did not ask questions. He just looked at her with those hard mountain eyes and said, "Mountains do not move for storms. Remember that." At the time, she had dismissed it as another one of his stubborn old sayings. She would think about that sentence very differently before this story was over. That first night, Scarlett did not unpack. She did not eat. She sat on a wooden chair in front of the stone fireplace her father had built with his own hands, struck a match, and watched the kindling catch. The flame crackled low and steady. And in that stillness, the absence hit her like a wall. No cartoons playing in the background. No tiny socks kicked under the couch. No voice asking, "Mom, can I have one more story?" She pressed her forehead against her knees and the tears came. Not the polite kind. Or not the ones you can wipe away and pretend never happened. These were the kind that bend you forward and steal the air from your lungs. "I failed him," she whispered into the empty room. The wooden walls did not answer. The mountains outside did not comfort her. They just stood there, the way mountains do, watching, waiting. And they were waiting for a reason. Because what Scarlett was about to find in this cabin would prove that her father had never stopped watching either. And the thing he left behind was not just sentimental, it was strategic. It happened almost by accident. Scarlett had cried herself to exhaustion and was sitting on the floor of her old childhood bedroom, back against the bed frame, knees pulled to her chest. The room was untouched, faded horse posters on the wall, a dent in the dresser from a teenage argument, as her grandmother's handmade quilt folded at the foot of the bed, and then something caught her eye, a loose floorboard near the closet. She frowned. Her father had never been careless with repairs. Every nail in this cabin had been driven with intention. A loose board in his home was not neglect. It was a message. She grabbed a butter knife from the kitchen and wedged it between the planks. After a few tries, the board lifted, revealing a narrow cavity beneath. And inside that cavity sat a metal tin. Not just any tin. An old ammunition box, cleaned, deliberately placed, hidden with purpose. Her hands trembled as she carried it to the living room. She set it on the coffee table in front of the fire. Flames danced across its scratched surface. For a long moment, she just stared at it. Whatever was inside that box had been waiting. Not for anyone. For her. The latch clicked open. Inside were neatly stacked envelopes, yellowed at the edges but carefully sealed. On top of them lay a small leather-bound notebook. She reached for the notebook first. Her father's handwriting filled the opening page. Not the rough grocery lists she remembered from the fridge. This was steady, deliberate, almost tender. If you are reading this, Scarlett, it means life knocked you down hard enough to send you back to the mountain. Her breath left her body. I always knew this place would be here when you needed it. What I did not know was how much you would have to lose before you came home. Now pay attention to what comes next, because those envelopes did not contain love letters. They did not contain sentimental memories. On what her father had hidden inside that tin was something that no judge, no attorney, and certainly not her ex-husband ever saw coming. The first envelope was dated 2 years before her father died. She slid it open with shaking fingers. Scarlett, I saw Lucas today. She read it again, and again. She had never brought Lucas to this mountain, not once. The letter continued. You did not know I was there. I did not want to interfere, but your ex brought him to the county fair last summer. I happened to be in town for supplies. Lucas has your eyes. Same way they light up when he laughs. He asked his father if he could ride the ponies twice. Reminded me of someone I used to know. Scarlett pressed her hand over her mouth. Her father had been there, watching his grandson from the edge of a crowd, and close enough to see the cotton candy on the boy's fingers. Too proud, too stubborn, too uncertain to come closer. I did not come over because I did not know if I still had the right. You made it clear this mountain is not part of your life anymore, but I want you to know something. I have been setting money aside. Not much, just enough so that if things ever went sideways, you would have options. Options. Scarlett's heart hammered. She reached for the next envelope. This one was dated 8 months before his death. I do not trust the way your husband talks about control. No warm-up, no softening, just the blade of truth laid flat on the page. I have seen that look before in men who think they own more than they do. If you ever need help, there is a safety deposit box in your name at First County Bank. The key is taped inside the back cover of this notebook. Do not argue with me about pride. Pride does not keep roofs overhead. Scarlett flipped the notebook open, fingers trembling. There it was. A small brass key taped neatly inside the back cover. But here is where the story takes a turn that even Scarlett was not prepared for, because the next envelope did not contain a letter. It contained legal documentation, and when she read what was inside, she realized her father had not just been watching from a distance. He had been building a case, quietly, methodically, like a man who knew the storm was coming years before the first cloud appeared. The third envelope was thicker than the others. Inside was a notarized statement. Her father had documented every concerning interaction he had witnessed between Scarlett and her ex-husband over the years. Raised voices, financial control. The time he had overheard a threat to take Lucas away if she did not fall in line. There were dates, descriptions, a signed affidavit from an old neighbor who had once stepped in during a particularly heated argument outside their home. Scarlett remembered that night. The shouting, Lucas crying in his bedroom with his hands over his ears. She had told herself it was not that bad, that every marriage had storms. Her father did not see storms. He saw warning signs. And instead of confronting her, instead of pushing her away with judgment, he did something far more powerful. He documented everything, quietly, carefully. So like a man laying stones for a wall that would not be needed until long after he was gone. The tears streaming down Scarlett's face were different now. Not broken, fierce. She reached for the final envelope. This one was not sealed, just folded once. Scarlett, if you are reading all of this, then something happened. And I am not there to stand in the doorway like I should have more often when you were young. She could barely see through her tears. I was not the easiest father. I know that. I mistook silence for strength. Thought giving you space meant giving you freedom. But if there is one thing I learned too late, it is this. Strength is not about standing alone. It is about knowing when to lean on what has been built for you. The fire crackled louder, as if the cabin itself was punctuating every word. That cabin is not an escape. It is a foundation. And you are not unstable. You are resilient. There is a difference. Resilient. No judge had used that word. They had said inconsistent employment, questionable environment. But here, in the handwriting of a man who never once told her he was proud of her, was something no courtroom could manufacture. Belief. She walked to the porch. The mountains stretched endlessly under a rising moon. Cold air bit her cheeks. She pressed the letters against her chest, and for the first time since the custody hearing, her thoughts were not spiraling in shame. They were organizing. I am not done, she whispered into the night. And she was not, because what Scarlett found in that safety deposit box the next morning would blow the custody case wide open. But it was what happened during the storm 3 days later that proved she was not the woman everyone believed she was. The bank was small. Old brick building at the edge of a downtown strip that had not changed in decades. Same faded awnings, same barbershop her father used to drag her to when she was 9. The woman behind the vault door was named Margaret. Silver hair, glasses low on her nose. She looked at Scarlett with something that felt like recognition. Your father was a good man, she said quietly. He did not always know how to say things, Scarlett replied. Margaret smiled. Some men build instead of speak. The vault door closed behind them with a heavy metallic hum. The brass key slid in smoothly. Inside the box were 3 items, a thick envelope, a flash drive, and a cashier's check. The check was not a fortune, but it was enough. Enough to cover legal fees, enough to stabilize several months of expenses, enough to breathe. Scarlett's knees weakened. She remembered now. Near the end, her father had been working extra shifts at the hardware store. She had assumed it was stubborn pride, an old man refusing to sit still after retirement. It was not pride, it was preparation. The envelope contained financial records, joint account withdrawals her ex-husband had made during the marriage. Funds Scarlett had never known existed. Besides certain entries, her father had written notes in his careful script. Notice pattern here. Transferred to personal account? Question timing before custody filing. Her father had not just been watching emotionally, he had been watching strategically, but the flash drive held something even more powerful. And when Scarlett plugged it in that evening and saw what her father had spent years quietly collecting, she understood that this was never about sentimentality. This was about war. The kind fought with paperwork, patience, and proof. The flash drive contained scanned images, text messages, voicemails, and financial statements, gathered quietly over time, never confronting her, never judging her, just building armor she did not yet know she would need. At the bottom of the folder was a single video file. Scarlett hesitated. Then she clicked. Her father appeared on screen. Sitting at this very kitchen table, camera slightly crooked, clearly uncomfortable with technology. He cleared his throat. If you are watching this, Scarlett, then I am not there to say it face to face. Her chest tightened. I know you think you have to fight alone. What you have always been that way. Got it from your mother. He paused. His eyes were softer than she had ever seen them. But strength does not mean isolation. It means using what is available to you. He leaned closer to the camera. Do not let anyone convince you that surviving hard seasons makes you unstable. It makes you experienced. He held her gaze through the screen. You are a good mother. I have seen it. And if someone tries to take that from you using technicalities and paperwork, you use the same tools back. The video ended. No dramatic goodbye, no music, just truth, from a man who spent his whole life building things instead of saying things. Scarlett closed the laptop and stared into the fire. Something had shifted. She was not grieving anymore. She was preparing. If this story is already hitting you differently than you expected, do us a favor. Hit that subscribe button right now. Because the next part of this story is where everything changes, and you are going to want to see how it ends. 3 days after Scarlett filed an amended custody motion with her attorney, a storm rolled across the mountains. The radio warned of heavy winds, unexpected for that time of year. The sky turned the color of bruised steel. Scarlett barely noticed at first. She was at the kitchen table, highlighter in hand, notes organized, timeline rebuilt with precision. She was not scrambling anymore. She was deliberate. The first gust rattled the windows. The second knocked a shutter loose. Then the power went out. Her phone buzzed. Unknown number. Miss Dawson, this is Deputy Collins from Buncombe County. I am calling regarding a welfare concern filed by your ex-husband. Her stomach tightened, but her voice held. What kind of concern? He is claiming you have relocated your son to an isolated property without notifying the court. Scarlett almost laughed, not because it was funny, because it was predictable. The same playbook, control the narrative, paint her as reckless, unstable, dangerous. He is not here, she said calmly. I have not had visitation since the ruling. Yes, Mom, we confirmed that. Just procedure. After hanging up, she stared at her reflection in the darkened window. Her ex did not know about the financial records. He did not know about the affidavit, and he certainly did not know that she was no longer fighting from fear. Then a crack echoed from the backyard. A tree limb had snapped under the force of the wind and was blocking the driveway. Old Scarlett would have seen that as confirmation, proof she could not handle this alone, proof the judge had been right. New Scarlett walked to the shed, grabbed her father's chainsaw, and went back out into the rain. It was not graceful, it was not polished, but it was capable. Piece by piece, she cut through the limb until the path was clear. Rain plastered her hair to her face, mud caked her boots. She did not care. She was not performing for anyone. She was surviving, the way she always had. That is when headlights appeared at the end of the driveway, a sheriff's vehicle. Her heart pounded once, hard, but she did not run. She did not hide. She stood right where she was, chainsaw still warm in her hand. Deputy Collins stepped out. He glanced at the cleared driveway and studied her for a moment. Tough night, he said. Yes, sir? He looked at her and something shifted in his expression. Not suspicion, respect. We had to follow up on the welfare call, he explained. But between you and me, I have seen unstable. This is not it. 3 words. This is not it. Validation she did not know she still needed. But it was her attorney's phone call later that night that revealed the real turning point. Her ex-husband had just made his biggest mistake. He filed for emergency modification based on the welfare complaint, her lawyer said. It will not hold, but he is escalating. Scarlett closed her eyes, smiled. Good. Her lawyer paused. Good? Yes, because now he is reacting, he is scrambling, and people who scramble make mistakes. Silence. Then slowly, I think you are right. Scarlett understood something now that she had not before. Her ex had built his entire case on one argument, her instability, but every time he pushed harder, every storm he tried to send her way, she did not crumble. She stood, and the record was beginning to reflect that. Mountains do not move for storms. Now she finally understood what her father meant. The courtroom felt different the second time. Same polished floors, same wooden benches, same judge seated high above, but Scarlett Dawson was not the same woman who had walked in here months ago with trembling hands and tear-blurred vision. This time, her documents were organized in a leather binder her father once used for tax records. The flash drive was in her purse, bank statements, the affidavit, the timeline, all of it. You're prepared with the patience of someone who had stopped reacting and started building. Her ex-husband sat across the aisle, confident as always. But Scarlett had learned something about confidence. Confidence built on control looks different than confidence built on truth. One is a performance, the other is a foundation. Her attorney presented the evidence calmly. Financial discrepancies, documented patterns of coercive behavior, the welfare complaint, exposed for what it was, retaliation, not concern. Scarlett did not interrupt. She did not argue emotionally. She let the facts speak. Paper trails, documentation, truth, the same tools her father had told her to use. When the judge finally looked at her and asked, "Miss Dawson, would you like to add anything?" The old Scarlett would have pleaded, would have cried, and would have tried to prove her heart in a room that only understood paperwork. The new Scarlett stood straight. "Yes, Your Honor." She did not speak about revenge. She did not attack her ex-husband. She spoke about consistency, about bedtime routines kept for years, school meetings never missed. Double shifts worked so that her son never had to carry the weight of adult problems on his small shoulders. She did not raise her voice. She did not perform. She simply told the truth. And sometimes the truth lands heavier than any performance ever could. There was a long pause when she finished, the kind of silence that stretches across a room and makes the walls lean in. Then the judge spoke. "This court is amending the custody arrangement. Primary custody will be restored to Miss Dawson. Long visitation terms will be revised accordingly." And what happened next, in the hallway outside that courtroom, was the moment that made every tear, every sleepless night, and every storm on that mountain worth it. Scarlett did not react immediately. Her body needed a moment to catch up to her ears. Primary custody restored. Her knees did not buckle this time, they held. She did not look at her ex for long. Her eyes were already searching the back of the courtroom. And there he was. Lucas, sitting beside a court-appointed advocate. When his eyes met hers, they widened. "Mom," he whispered. She could barely hear it, but she saw his lips form the word, and it was louder than anything the judge had said. After the paperwork was signed, she knelt in the hallway. Lucas ran to her, not cautiously, not confused. Fully. His arms wrapped around her neck so tight she almost could not breathe. "I thought you were mad at me," he murmured into her shoulder. Scarlett closed her eyes. "Oh, baby, I was never mad at you. I was fighting for you." He pulled back just enough to look at her. "Are we going home?" She smiled, really smiled, for the first time in months. "Yes, we are." The drive back up the mountain felt nothing like the first time. Lucas talked the entire way, about school, about a science project involving volcanoes, about a loose tooth he had been saving to show her. Scarlett listened, really listened, not while checking mirrors for what was chasing her, not while calculating what she could not afford. She just listened to her son's voice filling the car like sunlight filling a room that had been dark for too long. The gravel road appeared, yet just as stubborn and uneven as before. But when the cabin came into view, it did not look lonely. It looked ready. Lucas jumped out of the car before she even turned off the engine. "This is Grandpa's place?" he asked, eyes wide. "It is." He ran toward the porch, boots crunching against gravel, fingers reaching for the railing. Inside, the fire crackled gently. She had lit it that morning before court, an act of faith. Lucas walked through the living room, touching everything. Did Grandpa really build this fireplace? He did. Was he strong? Scarlett thought about the letters, the hidden savings, the quiet preparation, the video of a man who could not say he loved his daughter, so he built her a fortress instead. "Yes," she said softly. "He was." Lucas nodded, like that answered something bigger than the question. That night, the snow began to fall gently outside. Scarlett tucked her son into the small bedroom down the hall, the same room she had slept in as a girl, the same quilt draped across the bed. "Mom?" Lucas asked sleepily. Yes? Are you going to leave again? The question pierced her, but she did not flinch. No, she said steadily. I am not running anymore. He reached for her hand and squeezed it. Good, he murmured, and then he was asleep. Scarlett stood there for a long time, watching his chest rise and fall. Then she stepped into the living room. Firelight flickered against the wooden walls. She walked to the porch and looked out into the snow-dusted night. Months ago, she had come here broken, ashamed, convinced she had failed at the one thing that mattered. But what she found inside this cabin was not just documents or money. She found perspective. She found strategy. She found proof that strength does not announce itself. It prepares. And most importantly, she found something she had lost long before the courtroom took her son. She found herself. The wind moved gently through the pines. Scarlett closed her eyes. We are home, she whispered. And this time, the mountain did not just listen. It held them. Scarlett thought she lost everything the day that the judge ruled against her, but what she really lost was the illusion that she had to carry it all alone. The mountain did not save her. Her father did not come back to fight her battles. What happened was something quieter and far more powerful. She discovered that she had always been capable. The cabin did not give her strength. It reminded her she already had it. And sometimes, a reminder is all it takes to change the entire outcome of your life. Storms will come. People will misjudge you. Courts may rule against you. You may even lose faith in yourself. But if your foundation is built on love, effort, and truth, then even when you fall, you are not finished. You are just finding your footing. If this story stirred something inside you, subscribe to this channel. We bring you powerful, heart-true stories every single week. And if you know someone who is in the middle of their own storm right now, share this with them. Sometimes the moment you choose to stand again is the moment everything begins to change.